scene who were able to free the deputy from their patrol vehicle and bring them here to Grady Memorial Hospital. But as I said, in critical condition. Two other people who were hurt were the driver of that tractor trailer, as well as the driver who was just passing by and struck by the tire of that white Infiniti. And according to Georgia State Patrol troopers, the person who was behind the wheel of that suspect vehicle, the one that deputies were pursuing, that person wasn't hurt. It's not clear if that person has been arrested, if they're facing any charges at this time. We will keep you updated as we learn more about that. Thankfully, the other two people who were injured suffered minor injuries, are expected to recover. But again, that deputy in critical condition. We're still awaiting an update on their current condition this morning, as well as the deputy's name. As soon as we get that information, we'll keep you updated. But a developing story that we are on as well today. We'll give you the latest during our afternoon newscasts. My colleague Kevin Stewart will be live with the latest for you with that. For now, I'm live outside of Grady Memorial Hospital. Lindsay Tuman reporting. Back to you, Alex.
Okay, Lindsay, we appreciate it. I also want to point out that whenever there are law enforcement chases, it brings up the conversation of whether they're safe or not. So often we see innocent bystanders who end up hurt or hospitalized because of these. So it'll be interesting to see if that conversation comes to the forefront with this one. Thank you for that. We appreciate your time. Our next story this morning as we head into the afternoon is a big update for you all. If you remember this time yesterday, we were anticipating hundreds of South Korean nationals to head back to their country. At the time, we had just gotten word that that wasn't going to happen. Now we've learned it is expected to take off. That Korean air jet is expected to do so sometime this afternoon, as soon as 12 p.m. So let's check in now with Deidre Dukes. I remember this time yesterday, it was a hurry up and wait situation, Deidre. It sounds like we've got some information now.
That's right, Alex. And what a difference a day makes on a story that has all eyes on Atlanta and Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. The world literally watching and waiting for these detainees to make their way to that Korean aircraft and to depart here for Korea. Now, it was just yesterday, as you said, when we all learned that, in fact, that trip that had initially been planned for yesterday, that airplane was to depart with 300 South Korean nationals on board, was set to depart here at around 2:30 yesterday afternoon. And we did learn around this time that that plane would, in fact, not depart. Now, as you recall, we actually learned as that flight was in midair, it was making its way here to Atlanta, to Hartsfield-Jackson International, the international terminal, and it did come in here just after 10. It parked here in the South Cargo area of the international terminal, and then we did learn around that time that, in fact, that plane would not be leaving with those individuals on board. But then late yesterday afternoon, we began receiving word that, in fact, they would be departing today, and we are working to confirm information that we received just within the past half hour or so, that those individuals, that group is, in fact, here on site here at Hartsfield-Jackson, awaiting the boarding of that aircraft for the departure back to Korea. Now, I did have the opportunity to talk to an immigration attorney who's representing several of those who were detained at that Hyundai plant in South Georgia last week, and here's what he had to say about the emotional toll this has taken on these individuals.
These are not people that have ever been in a jail before. This is a jail. It's not a detention center. Sounds nice. No, it's a jail. And the first night was horrible. It was horrible. Over the course of the next 5 days, they became accustomed to the rhythm of the place. But most of them will probably decide never to come back to the United States. It is traumatic. I'm sure they'll need some counseling after this. And at the end of the day, nobody who's not a criminal should ever be in jail. It's an awful experience.
And some strong words there as to the emotions, the wide range of emotions I'd imagine that all those who were involved in that raid and detained experienced the last several days. Now, again, we were told that those individuals were bussed here to Hartsfield-Jackson early this morning, that they are on site today. We, of course, are still working to confirm that. And there is a scheduled departure at around noon here, Alex. Of course, we continue to monitor the situation, and we'll have an update for you as soon as we have more information.
I'm looking forward to learning more information about those people who were here on a visa that stipulated that they could work in this country. It'll be interesting to see if we could ever find out if they're going to make their way back and try to continue doing the same work. It just seems like this is something that is going to be brought up again in some capacity.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Alex, and the attorney will have more from him later today. But as you heard him say, he doubts that those individuals who were detained here this past week, if they'll ever want to even return to the United States, must let's come back here to work. And so a lot of unanswered questions and some far-reaching implications and ramifications to what transpired here in South Georgia last week.
Yeah, it's something that they will certainly not forget. Deidre, thank you. We appreciate your time. We do have lots more news to tell you about this afternoon. I want to make sure that I've got all my notes in order here. Big news that I'm seeing just now coming into the Fox 5 newsroom. If you've been paying attention to the news lately, you know Charlie Kirk, a famed conservative analyst and organizer, was shot and killed yesterday while doing what one would argue he does best. He was speaking to students while at a Utah university. You're looking at images now of the crowd dispersing, running literally for their lives after a sniper shot and killed the 31-year-old father of two and husband. Well, here's some new information just now coming into the Fox 5 newsroom. President Trump says that he will posthumously award Charlie Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Many of you know that is our nation's highest honor. Charlie Kirk, for those of you who are not familiar, is known for being a true champion for the right. He would go to young people's places of learning, institutions, colleges, and talk about these hot button issues. I remember one of his most popular videos was one of him debating a young man about what a man is, arguably talking about the differences between a transgender man and someone who was born male. Those conversations really lit up social media. He's also had conversations about abortion rights, bringing prayer back into schools. This is someone who became one of Trump's admitted favored allies. I was doing quite a bit of research on Charlie Kirk last night as we were learning about his life and how he will be remembered. And we ended up talking about how he has this, one would argue, infamous reputation of being able to bring a lot of people together. So he would have these debates, not just with people who think like him, but he's known for talking with people who think the exact opposite. So I want to give you a lay of the land, the latest on the search for the killer. Authorities announced earlier this morning in the 9 o'clock hour that they recovered the assassin's rifle. Investigators say the shooter was skilled enough to get off that fatal shot from 100 yards away. Think about that. That sounds like something straight out of a movie. This shooter was perched on a roof not far from where this event was taking place at Utah Valley University. And Kirk was taking questions, as he was known to do. This time, the topic was mass shootings. So there is surveillance video authorities did share in that news conference this morning. They said they're not going to release it, at least not anytime soon. The logic is they wholeheartedly believe they're going to be able to find this person without the public's help. They said they would be open to releasing the video should they find that ends up being more difficult than they anticipated. But that surveillance video shows the suspect arrived at the university just before noon yesterday. So think 11:52 a.m. That person got themselves set up for this horrific killing. They shot that fatal shot and then jumped off of the building and ran away into a nearby neighborhood. So that's all the information we have right now about what happened. But I want to give you some more details here. That person apparently was dressed in all black, and I want to quote authorities on this because it sounds like they might walk this statement back depending on what they learn. They say this person would blend in with the average college student. They're hinting at the fact that this might be a young person who pulled the trigger. So again, Charlie Kirk was a leading voice for young conservative voters, known for his willingness to press people on hot button topics, to sit there and listen to whatever the opinion was on the right or the left. He had gotten so close with President Trump that he's considered to the president to be a martyr, so much so that the president now says he will posthumously award Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We're going to have much more on this case as the news develops. Of course, you know that we bring you these live news conferences as they happen. But we also do have a presser coming up. Let's see if we can play some of that happened earlier this morning.
Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. I'd be remiss if we didn't start off today and recognize the significance of the day. Historically on 9/11, law enforcement has come together as a group to recognize and honor those that sacrificed to preserve the ideals of this country, the freedoms of this country. And instead we find ourselves today hunting a murderer who chose to violate our rights, the rights of an individual within this country. Just to recap yesterday's events, at around 12:20 p.m., political influencer Charlie Kirk was at Utah Valley University participating in a student-sponsored event with Turning Point USA. Charlie was shot at that event. He was transported to a local hospital where he later passed. Last night, his body was moved to the state office of the medical examiner. We will continue to facilitate movements to get him home today and with his family. Yesterday, during the investigative process, we located a couple of persons of interest. We interviewed those individuals, and after releasing them and after clearing them of being suspects, they faced scrutiny, they faced threats. We asked the public to be patient with the investigative process. These individuals were not suspects, they were people of interest. We ask that you do not impose into those people and that investigative process. They don't deserve that harassment for being subject to that. I'd like to thank all the investigators that are involved in this. They have worked around the clock. All day yesterday, through the night last night, investigators from the State Bureau of Investigations, from county, from city agencies, the university, our federal partners with the FBI, the ATF, and many others. Those are just a few of the people that we have involved in this. I'd like to thank all of them for their strong work. Through all that work last night, we were able to make a few breakthroughs. We were able to track the movements of the shooter. Starting at 11:52 a.m., this subject arrived on campus, shortly away from campus. We have tracked his movements onto the campus, through the stairwells, up to the roof, across the roof to a shooting location. After the shooting, we were able to track his movements as he moved to the other side of the building, jumped off of the building, and fled off of the campus and into a neighborhood. Our investigators have worked through those neighborhoods, contacting anybody they can with doorbell cameras, witnesses, and have thoroughly worked through those communities, trying to identify any leads. We do have good video footage of this individual. We are not going to release that at this time. We are working through some technologies and some ways to identify this individual. If we are unsuccessful, we will reach out to you as the media and we will push that publicly to help us identify them. But we are confident in our abilities right now, and we would like to move forward in a manner that keeps everyone safe and moves this process appropriately. Last night I communicated with Erica. The family's devastated. As a commissioner of public safety, as a father, as a husband, I can only imagine what that family's going through. The heinous event that happened yesterday is not Utah. This is not what we're known for. Over the past several weeks, we've seen this state come together to help families in mourning, come together as a community to show what Utah is known for a state of character, of service, of camaraderie, of a neighboring feel. We will not stand for what happened yesterday. We are exhausting every lead. We have every officer invested in this, every investigator, every local agency, The outpouring of support from the law enforcement community has been astounding. We are investing everything we have into this, and we will catch this individual.
You were just listening to a pre-recorded press conference about Charlie Kirk's assassination. If you're interested in more information about it and the latest on the search for his killer, you can go to fox5atlanta.com or download the free Fox Local app. Stay with us, because after this, we're going to talk about some breaking news. A football coach has just been charged after a student was airlifted to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Stay with us. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Fox 5 on Fox Local. We are following breaking news right now. A football coach has been arrested and charged. A child was airlifted to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta's Arthur M. Blank Hospital after some sort of freak accident, it sounds like, at Old National Park. We're tuning in now with Fox 5's Angelique Proctor. She's been following this story for us. Angelique, what's this all about?
Well, good afternoon to you, Alex. Several parents and supporters here at Old National Park tell me that they expected this coach to be arrested after what they saw Monday night. This is, of course, breaking news. The coach just finally being arrested. He is Coach Jonathan Sagers, and take a look at his mugshot here. The Old National Park coach has been charged with cruelty to children and battery after South Fulton police say he grabbed the 12-year-old player's shoulder pad and threw him to the ground. Now, witnesses told us that Sager and the child were in an argument about how the boy responded to a play. Sager told police he was showing the 12-year-old a football technique, but police and witnesses believe the coach clearly crossed the line. Now, we talked to one resident who responded to the scene once she heard the 12-year-old was being airlifted to a trauma center.
Vehicle when we drove up. Anybody that assaults a child in a park that is supposed to be a coach, yes, you should be arrested and seek medical, because that is not what we're trying to project as a coach. You're supposed to be mentoring and coaching children. You're not supposed to be assaulting a child or hurting a child in a public park because you can't control yourself.
Now, two of the coaches who were here Monday night actually talked with me. They say they have nurses that are always here during practice. Those two nurses evaluated the 12-year-old and immediately told coaches to dial 911. The arrest warrant says the child was unconscious here at the park. The coaches tell me the 12-year-old collapsed and had no feeling in his legs. Now, the resident we talked to believes that charges were appropriate.
It doesn't matter what the child has done. That is not your role. That is the parent's role. We're talking like 12-year-olds, Pop Warner. You got Pop Warner out here. You got cheerleaders out here. You got the youth out here. These are not adults. So my reasoning is we need answers from the city of South Fulton.
And of course, the city of South Fulton has answered with this arrest. We also learned that there's some 300 children that come here for football, baseball, or cheerleading. But we also learned some very interesting information. Suspect Sagers has recently had a run-in with the law. He was arrested by Atlanta police on August 29th after being pulled over during a traffic stop that was on Gartrell Street. That's in southeast Atlanta. According to Atlanta police, he took off running and left his car behind. Now, those charges that day, August 29th, just a couple of weeks ago, include possession of marijuana less than an ounce, possession of a Schedule II controlled substance, possession of a firearm, driving on a suspended license, a seatbelt violation, as well as willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. We do know that Sagers is in the Fulton County Jail. We will have much more on this developing story, but we also want to let everyone know that that 12-year-old is out of the hospital and recovering with his parents, his mom and his dad. Alex.
That's some encouraging news, Angelique. Of course, we all want to know that the 12-year-old is doing okay. I do, since we have some time, and this is Fox 5 on Fox Local, just want to have a candid conversation with you. You know, football is huge here in Georgia, and people know football as an aggressive sport, a masculine sport. They expect their coaches to, for lack of a better phrase, rough their kids up a little bit, make them a little more used to getting roughed up on a field. So have any of the parents talked about where that line is crossed? At what point are you preparing your child for a tough sport, and at what point are you being abusive?
I think in this particular case, because several witnesses have said the coach and the 12-year-old were actually in an argument, sort of really having words, and then the coach apparently responded, according to witnesses, with this aggressive action. This is being viewed as very differently from normal contact between a coach and his players. And so really everyone that I've spoken to has said that they thought this coach went too far and that criminal charges were appropriate, and South Fulton Police, in this case, agreed with the witnesses.
Mm-hmm. And you were doing some investigative work here, looking at documents, figuring out who this person was, and you said that he does have a criminal history. We so often cover incidents in which someone takes off running from police after a traffic stop. For this person to have already been charged and documented as having done that, I'm sure parents are going to want to know, how did this person end up being a coach for my child in the first place?
A lot of parents did mention that to me. Now, keep in mind, this arrest with Atlanta was just August the 29th, and according to the records that I read, he had no criminal history prior to that.
Okay.
So this was a recent arrest, but it was a very serious arrest, having drug and gun charges, and so a lot of parents were very concerned about that and felt like if Atlanta police had notified him, maybe notified this park, maybe he wouldn't have been coaching. But that was just August 29th, and here we are September 11th, so not a lot of time there. But clearly he's got now 2 different cases pending, and he is in the Fulton County Jail.
That is a really good distinction, Angelique. I think it is fair that we present all sides of who this person is, as much as we know about him. So for you to say he didn't have a criminal history prior to that August 29th incident is very important. I appreciate that you stressed that to our viewers. Thank you. We'll check back with Angelique later in the day. As you can imagine, we're going to have updates for you on Fox 5 News at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock. I do want to pivot now, though, and talk about some weather. It really has been nice out there, and I can tell you that this is the kind of time of year that many of us dream of, right? The humidity is low, the sunshine is out there, it's crisp in the morning, you might have a jacket, and then all of a sudden you peel it off in the afternoons. That's what we love. So I was talking to Fox 5 Storm Team meteorologist Lauren Robinson a bit earlier today, and she was telling me, as Jonathan told me yesterday, those rain chances, just go ahead and throw them away. Now that's great if you're the kind of person that's worried about your hair, you don't like to drive in the rain. Hello, that's me. But if you are a farmer, if you're someone who is especially dedicated to farmers markets, you know that Georgia's soil needs some sort of precipitation. You know this isn't the best news. But I also was listening closely to Jonathan yesterday when he talked about how around this time last year, we were dealing with Hurricane Helene. So let's just consider that as we enjoy more of this beautiful weather that you see here on your screen. So stay with us because you heard Angelique mention it. We're going to mention it all morning. It is September 11th, a somber day in our country. We have team coverage, not just of events that are happening here locally, but nationwide. Stay with us. Live on Fox Local. I want to point out something that we want to make sure that we've gotten right here. Verbally, we said that the child in that story about the football coach who's now been charged with hurting that child, we said that child is recovering, and that is true. But one of our banners, one of the texts on screen said something else. So we want to make it abundantly clear that child is expected to recover. They are living, breathing, expected to be okay, which is welcome news. By the way, that coach is expected to be in court any moment now at 11:30 a.m. We're going to keep you posted on what becomes of that case. That said, it is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. Making it 24 years since that horrific day, September 11th, 2001, in which our country lost nearly 3,000 loved ones. People died in one of the most horrific attacks in U.S. history. Since then, more than 400 firefighters have died due to complications, likely because of the work they did that day. And I want to let you know that 1,000 people are still unaccounted for. That said, we have team coverage of events that are taking place all day today. We'll start you off with Fox 5's Eric Perry, who is at an event. It sounds like we were struggling to get Eric Perry. We now have some breaking news. This is happening now. The South Korean plane is taking off. We welcome you to pay attention here as we show you this image. This is live and happening now. One of the best parts about this program, Fox 5 on Fox Local, is that we have lots of moving parts. So I anticipated talking with you all about that event, and we have Eric Perry on standby. But we figured if we've got something that's moving and shaking in this very moment, we might as well show you as it's happening. So if you remember, there were hundreds of South Korean nationals who were rounded up in a raid a week ago. And I remember hearing that there was a lot of drama about the president saying that he wanted to make a statement. He wanted to let other countries know they need to respect our country's immigration laws. Around this time yesterday, we were talking with Fox 5's Deidre Dukes about when those Korean nationals could be sent back home. You know, South Korea and the U.S. did come to an agreement. They struck up a deal saying, okay, your 375-ish members of your community can go back. I remember doing some research and finding that many of these people were here on a visa. It just might have been expired. Or maybe they were on a work visa, but they were only allowed to work for 75 days. Some people were in the country illegally. So there were a mixed bag of people here working at that Hyundai plant in South Georgia. It's my understanding it was just west of Savannah. So we've been all morning, if you've been watching Good Day Atlanta, following that caravan that was bringing the hundreds of South Koreans to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. If you were watching earlier in this newscast, I like to call it a news conversation for the times that we're available to you on YouTube, and you can leave a comment. But we were talking about with Deidre Dukes this very moment that it could happen as soon as 12:12 today. It looks like this plane is taking off even sooner than that. It is 11:38 this morning. You can see the plane on the runway, assumingly filled with hundreds of South Korean nationals who were in this country working on a Hyundai plant in South Georgia. So there is the plane. I'm going to give this a moment to breathe as we watch this plane take off. And there it is. The moment that hundreds of South Koreans head back to their homeland. A day later than anticipated, but it still happened as of this week, a week after that massive raid at that Hyundai plant. We do want to pivot back to our 9/11 remembrance coverage. I know we had Eric Perry on standby. I know I abruptly cut off our conversation, Eric, so I just want to do a pulse check, as I call it. Can you still hear me? Are you still out there?
Yes, I am still here. Can you hear us?
Great. I hear you and I see you, Eric. So let's get into it. I saw you earlier on Good Day Atlanta, and it looks like this is a great opportunity to not just remember a horrific day, but also give back to the community. What's happening there?
Yeah, Alex, so right now is a transitional time. So they had a shift from 9 to 11 this morning. They had 600 volunteers all packing. This is what those stations look like. They're putting together oatmeal. So this is all in the thanks to the committee as they pack for the Atlanta Meal Pack for 9/11. It's taking place all over the country. Your hometown, Chicago, is the largest city. But Atlanta, we're keeping up with them. We are number 2 right behind. So what you're seeing now is the second wave of volunteers coming in. So you see the orange Home Depot here. Earlier we had the red with Delta, and they're getting ready, and what they'll do is they'll pack boxes. They're trying to get to 600,000 people. All right, you guys are on television, Fox 5. Just give a wave here as you guys get ready to go. They're ready to pack. You guys have to beat the earlier crowd. They did 200,000 packs of oatmeal to give out to the Atlanta Food Bank and Community Center there. So the goal is 9 million across the country there. People coming through, and they're getting real busy as they're working through and working to try to figure out everything. They're going to have a little celebration at first here. What they're going to do is, of course, they're going to pause to remember 9/11 as well. And we're going to shift out of the way as more volunteers are coming through. Then we'll have Benjamin E. Mays, some high school seniors and students there will come through and sing America the Beautiful, and then they will get going. And it is energetic. They have a DJ here, but really what it is a way that people can come together, remember such a horrible day, but give back. I think we have some sound for you to listen to. I talked with Dr. Perry, not related to me, but she is a volunteer here, and the theme is Remember the Good, and that's what they're trying to do. Take a listen.
Hello, if there are any
events like this bring you together, and you realize you have more together, more in common than apart. And so serving the community in this way is just a blessed way to live your life.
All right, so that wasn't Dr. Perry. That was another organizer that I talked with as well, because you have so many just different events, companies coming out, all here to Mercedes-Benz. They're going to get started any moment now. Like I said earlier, their goal is 600,000, and this morning they did 200,000 as well. We're going to move to the side. They were bustling through, so what they're doing is they're replenishing as they're taking these boxes here. They're going to put them over there for them to get ready, and they're going to stuff it. As soon as they run out, they'll keep it going, Alex. And again, first group did 200,000. They're trying to get to 600,000. They'll have another wave in. Will go until about 2 o'clock, and then they'll have a final wave from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, all given back, Alex.
Wow. That's a massive turnout for this, Eric. And you probably remember this. I'm going to go ahead and let the people know. We worked together at our last TV station, too. Do you remember when our last boss would say, position the positive? Do you remember that?
Yeah, and so that's exactly what they're trying to do here. So again, they're trying to remember the good. Of course, a terrible day, but there was so much bravery that happened on that day that we saw a lot of people coming out. And especially with everything, we'll get into that a little bit at noon as well, but I'll give you a little sneak peek because, we worked together in our last market. But no, they talked a little bit about with everything that's going on politically, everything that's going on in the climate, in the world together, so many different backgrounds, different companies, socioeconomic backgrounds are all coming together to collaborate. So this has really been therapeutic, I've been told by a lot of people. I'm going to put on a hairnet and kind of work through this next group as well to kind of give back as well. So it's just something that people can do. Again, we remember that horrendous day, but trying to position that positive, as you brought up.
Yeah.
Good point there.
Yeah. Eric, thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing pictures of you and your hairnet. We know you're a hard worker. So if they're at 200,000 meals so far, I anticipate you putting in a good 2,000 to add on to that. Eric, thank you.
Okay, that is some pressure, Alex. All right.
Thank you, Eric. All right, everyone. Again, we are continuing our team coverage of a very somber day as we position the positive and remember the heroes from September 11th, 2001. Stay with us. We have more coverage of this right after this. Back to Fox 5 on Fox Local. I'm Alex Whitler. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with us on a very somber day. It is Thursday, September 11th, 2025. We are remembering 24 years since the most horrific attack on our country. I've been giving these updates throughout the morning just to sort of get your mind right, to remember how many people we lost. It was almost 3,000 that day. Another 400 New York firefighters have died since then, likely because of health ramifications that they experienced after, all because of that day. And 1,000 people are still unaccounted for right now, 24 years later. That said, we are paying attention to some local remembrance ceremonies. I want to bring in Fox 5 photographer Billy Heath, who is in Stone Mountain, an area that he knows very well. It's good to see you, Billy. Are you at the top of Stone Mountain already?
Hey, good to see you, Alex. Yes, I am at the top of Stone Mountain, and you said it right, a very somber day, but an incredible sight up here as I watched, several hundred firefighters make a trek from the base of the mountain up to the top wearing their full turnout gear. I spoke with one firefighter. He said that gear can be about 60 pounds, if not more, and there were hundreds of firefighters. They made that trip from the base, marching all the way to the top. There was a ceremony up here. Bagpipes were played, but this is just a way that this family of firefighters are remembering those lost, in the tragic events of 9/11.
As journalists, we get to know firefighters pretty well. I know some, they've become my friends. And when you hear about the gear that they put on and how much it weighs, when you hear that they're wearing that in all sorts of conditions, you really respect the work that they do. And you can't even imagine the firefighters who were trying to brave those smoky conditions, those crumbling building conditions 24 years ago. So, Billy, it's my understanding that those firefighters were out here doing this in remembrance of the ones who did such harrowing work more than 2 decades ago. What have they told you about this experience? I imagine some of them have come out for an event like this each year.
You're absolutely right. You mentioned knowing firefighters and knowing how difficult the job that they do is. I actually had the opportunity to speak with a firefighter who was in the first tower as the second tower collapsed. He told me that his lieutenant told him, look, carry your gear up those steps as much as you can, but when it gets to be too much, set it down. And we'll make that climb without the gear. As they traveled further up, there was going to be more gear from other crews that they could then pick up and bring up to the staging area. So he called it a relay. It doesn't have to be grab your gear and go. You have your brothers and sisters in the fire department who very much will pick up that gear and bring it further up the steps for you. You mentioned people traveling for this event. I spoke with firefighters who traveled as far as West Virginia.
Wow.
So of course this is drawn. Yeah, absolutely. It's quite the trip. And speaking of firefighters who made a trip, I have a fire right here. His name is Josh Wagner. I'm going to bring him in. Josh, come on in. They made the trip. Come on just a little bit further if you don't mind. Perfect. They made the trip from Monroe. They said it was about an hour and 10 minutes. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Hour and 10 minutes.
Really, it's by the grace of God that we get to stand up here and do this to show support for our brothers and sisters that lost their lives on 9/11.
Talk about that hike wearing this turnout gear that you have on.
It's pretty treacherous, but again, we're very blessed to be able to do it, to be able to come up here, spend good time with our brothers and sisters, and be able to do this together.
What would you say to the firefighter community, your family, today on 9/11?
Just be praying, be thankful, spend time with your families, and enjoy that time together, because it's a blessing.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate your time. And
thank you.
Yep. All right, Alex, so that was Josh Wagner, came out here from Monroe. So like you said, people are traveling all over for this event.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of mic difficulty for some reason. When you were speaking, we heard Josh Wagner just fine. But if you said something that was especially poignant, we'd love to still hear it.
Oh, no, I asked Josh. I'm glad you were able to hear Josh. What he's saying is far more important than what I had to say, of course, on this morning. But he was I've talked to several firefighters out here this morning, and the overarching theme is family. And you're going to know this very well. DeKalb County suffered a very recent loss of one of their firefighters. And I talked to several of the DeKalb County guys, and they said that that firefighter is at the forefront of their minds this morning. So it's absolutely foremost, remembering those lost on 9/11, but firefighters lose their lives all the time doing this very difficult job for the community.
Yeah, they really do. And if you've ever met more than one firefighter, and I say that specifically for what I'm about to say, you know that it's like a fraternity. They sit in a fire department for 24 hours, maybe 48 hours on end, and they really get to know their brothers and sisters who suit up to quite literally protect our community. So we can only imagine how much this means to them to participate in an event like this.
Sorry, just 1 second. Alex just sort of lost you there on IFB. What was the end of your question?
That was okay. It wasn't even a question. It was more of just a statement that firefighters are really so communal. It's like a brotherhood, a fraternity. And we appreciate your time, Billy. Thank you.
Absolutely. And that is, of course. Thank you so much, Alex. I appreciate you.
We'll see you again soon. That said, we have another member of our photojournalism team, Eli Jordan, who is in Henry County with another September 11th event. Good morning, Eli. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Alex. I am well, and I hope you're well. Yes, I'm at Heritage Park in Henry County, just off of Lake Dell Road, where many first responders of Henry County came out here, the fire department, police, and community members. And they came out here to commemorate that terrible day 24 years ago with bagpipes, taps playing, and a commemoration of 4 wreaths, which symbolized the 4 planes that were hijacked that day. And I spoke with Henry County Fire Chief Pat Wilson, and he was on duty that day, and he tells me what it was like in his firehouse when that horrible day happened.
Oh my gosh, I can remember thinking, is this real, right? I remember our initial thoughts was we saw the second plane crash into the towers. We thought that was a video of the first plane, and we realized we're in trouble. This is going to be a really long day today. And what I remember was it was quiet. Although calls were still happening, it was quiet. We were on lockdown. Nobody was talking. We all were glued. When we had opportunities in between calls, we were glued to the television watching and wondering about the fate of those firefighters. We didn't know how many were going to die. In fact, we thought when we saw the first tower collapse, man, it's just, how many, citizens. We knew there was going to be a lot of firefighter deaths that day when we saw that first tower, and obviously with the second tower, man, it was just a surreal day.
And Alex, like you were speaking with Billy, it is brotherhood in the fire departments. I mean, when Chief Wilson there watching that with his colleagues that day, that it could have been them. They would have done the exact same thing, rush into a burning building and terribly damaged building that day. And then only, unfortunately, 343 firefighters in New York lost their lives that day. And so it's a very poignant day for firefighters across the country. Alex?
It really is beautiful behind you. Can you speak to more of some of the mementos that are behind you?
Yeah,
What is that about?
Well, this is the Veterans Wall of Honor right here. And these are some of the wreaths commemorating the flights that crashed that day. And they saluted those. And then, like I said, they had taps and they had bagpipes playing. But this is, I believe this park came about in the past decade or so. It's been around for a little bit. It's the Heritage Park off Lake Dell Road in Henry County. And, they commemorate all of America's conflicts. And today they came out here to honor the 9/11 victims and firefighters that gave their lives that day on 24 years ago. And I was at work, and I remember we didn't have news for 2 weeks because it was all national news, and we were trying to get responses from local people and whatnot. And the day that it happened, there was a big, huge warehouse fire that we covered, but none of us were focused on the warehouse fire. We just could not believe what was going on in New York City that day. And a lot of local news did not make air due to national TV covering the 9/11 events. And, you know, all the planes were grounded, and a lot of things were canceled for a few weeks after that.
Oh, to say the least. Yeah, to say the least, Eli. Anyone who was alive and old enough to remember that day will never forget that day. I remember parents talking to their kids, trying to explain what this all meant. And it's interesting that it's still something that parents are going to have to try to explain to their children today so that our country never forgets. You were just hearing from Fox 5 photojournalist Eli Jordan in Henry County at a beautiful park there. That said, we really do appreciate your time. You've spent an entire hour with us as we've talked about news of the day, but also remembrance ceremonies for this day, September 11th. We really do, as always, appreciate you spending some time with us. Please feel free to do so some other time. We are live here on every weekday at 11 a.m. We're back with more news for Fox 5 News at noon, right after this.
Fox 5 News at noon starts right now.
Right now at noon, we're learning more about the search for the person who assassinated political activist Charlie Kirk. Investigators have now found the gun they believe the gunman used. Plus, danger on duty for a Clayton County deputy overnight after he was hit by a semi during a chase. The deputy is in the hospital. We get the latest on his condition just ahead. But first, and only on Fox 5, a youth football coach faces charges accused of slamming a young player to the ground and injuring him. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Tyler Fingert. That 12-year-old boy got injured earlier this week during a football practice at Old National Park in South Fulton. Fox 5 exclusively obtained the coach's arrest warrant, which says he slammed the player to the ground so hard that he lost consciousness. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor has followed this story since it broke. She joins us now with the details you're seeing first on Fox 5. Angelique.
Well, good afternoon to you, Tyler. This coach claimed that he was teaching a football technique, but clearly the witnesses and now South Fulton police believe he clearly crossed the line here. Let's take a look at the suspect. This is his mugshot. Jonathan Sagers is his name. The Old National Park coach had been charged with cruelty to children, which is a felony, as well as misdemeanor battery after South Fulton police say he grabbed a 12-year-old player's shoulder pad and threw him to the ground. Now, witnesses told us Sager and the child were in an argument about how the boy responded to a play. Sager told police he was showing the 12-year-old a football technique, but police did not buy that story. We talked to one resident who responded to the scene and believes these charges are appropriate.
We saw him in the police vehicle when we drove up. Anybody that assaults a child in a park that is supposed to be a coach, yes, you should be arrested and seek medical, because that is not what we're trying to project as a coach. You're supposed to be mentoring and coaching children. You're not supposed to be assaulting a child or hurting a child in a public park because you can't control yourself.
Now, the arrest warrant says the child was unconscious here on the scene. It also says that Sagers began taunting the child while the child was on the ground. Now, we have learned that suspect Sagers was arrested by Atlanta police on August 29th in another case after being pulled over for a traffic stop. Now, those charges include drug possession as well as a gun charge and willful obstruction of law enforcement because he apparently ran from the scene, leaving his car behind. Now, Sagers is in the Fulton County Jail. We will have much more on this developing story, but we do want to let everyone know that that 12-year-old is out of the hospital and